difference I've made, I may as well have stayed in school. For all the difference it made, I may as well have played by rules. I'm nowhere, I'm nothing, and now I'm so much older than I thought I would ever be. Same faces, same places, same sorry semblance of a life, same drunken stumble off to sleep. Here comes no one going nowhere fast. He's afraid that he's not going to last. For all the difference I've made, I may as well have stayed in school. For all the difference it made, I may as well have played by rules. I'm no one, I'm nothing, and now I'm so much older than I thought I would ever be. Same places, same faces, same sorry semblance of a life, same drunken stumble off to sleep. Here comes no one going.
Hello, welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff, and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today, as you could probably tell by that little written intro, this video is going to be about how I have attempted to improve my handwriting in the last year or so. I'd actually gotten quite a few comments on especially my Midori Traveler's Notebook review, in which people complimented my handwriting and asked me to do a video about how I learned to write in the way I do. And I was a little torn about doing this video because I am still not very happy with my handwriting. I think it has a long way to go. I've been trying to practice, I've been trying to improve, but I thought maybe it would be helpful for me to show you the things that I've been doing to try to improve my handwriting. So I'm in no way an expert on cursive script, on handwriting, on anything like that. And I still think, as I say, that I have a long way to go until I could even say that my writing is passable. But it could be of benefit for me to show you what I've been doing. So I'm going to go through all sorts of resources that I've been using, practice methods that I've been using, just all these things that I have here that I've been trying to use to help improve my handwriting. And hopefully this will be a benefit to you. This is not going to be me sitting down and saying, exercise 1, hold your pen like this, do this exercise over and over and over. I'm not going to show you that kind of thing. This isn't going to be a by rote learning method to teach you how to write in a certain way, teach you a certain script. I'm just going to show you how I have been trying to make my handwriting a little bit better. So hopefully you find this helpful. All right, so as I mentioned in the intro, my handwriting used to be absolutely horrible. I believe I was taught in, 2nd or 3rd grade how to do cursive. I think we had used what's called the Danielian method of cursive in the school I went to. And we did it for a couple years. We were required to write in cursive for a while, and then basically we weren't required to do it anymore, and I left it behind, never looked back, pretty much never wrote in cursive after that. Developed this very sloppy, very odd style of just printing. And a lot of this is due to the fact that I held my pen or pencil in a very incorrect manner. I think I showed you in that little intro video, I used to hold my pen like this, kind of like the caveman way of holding a pen. And I think that developed because I like to draw a lot, and I've always liked to draw. And I always felt like when I was drawing, this gave me kind of more fine control, and it's just sort of how I defaulted to holding my pen. And I would also rest my hand on the paper. So when you're writing like that, you can't really get a nice fluid flow going because you keep having to lift your hand up over and over, pretty much after every word. Works well for drawing, doesn't work really well for penmanship. And so in the last year or so, when I decided that I wanted to try to improve my handwriting, mostly because I had started buying kind of fancy fountain pens and I felt like my handwriting was an embarrassment to the pen, I decided that the first thing I had to do was change my grip. I had to grip the pen in the proper way. And if you have ever tried to change a habit that you have indulged in for decades and that is just second nature, it seems as natural as breathing to you, it is very difficult. But I made a concerted effort. I started looking online. I tried to determine which way am I supposed to hold a pen. And I knew, this basic grip where you rest the bottom of the pen or the pencil on your middle finger, and then you use your index finger and thumb. And then I also had to develop a way to rest my hand on these two fingers here. I don't know how you can see this in camera. Instead of resting my hand like this on the fleshy part on the bottom of my hand on the paper, I tried to start floating it on these two fingers. So I was able to get a more fluid writing method, and then using my elbow, good old elbow, there he is, resting that on the table, and then using that as a fulcrum for my hand and for my fingers as I wrote. This took a lot of practice, and not me just sitting around doing this over and over, but just catching myself. Every time I started grabbing my pen like this, I had to say, nope, you're doing it like this. Every time I rested my hand on the paper like this, nope, get it up on those two fingers, on the pinky and the ring finger. Let it just float there, give yourself a more fluid motion. Use large motions with your forearm and your wrist as opposed to the fine motions that I was using with my fingers, just the tips of my fingers. Hold your pen like this. Rest your hand, or rest on the paper with just these first two fingers, or these last two fingers. Use your elbow as a fulcrum as you're writing. Now, a lot of people, when they write, they rest the pen in the crook of the thumb knuckle, basically, or the web of the thumb. I still have trouble doing that, so I hold my pen further up here, so it comes kind of right where the last knuckle of the index finger is. And I discovered that that's called the calligrapher's grip. So your hand is a little more upright as you're writing, and the pen is angled this way a little more as opposed to this way. And I find for me that works really well. For other people, it might not work so well. So basically what I would suggest is for you to just do some research online, look at different methods of holding a pen, find a way that's comfortable for you. But if you have a very odd way of holding a pen, if it works, maybe that's fine, but I think a good indication of knowing whether or not you need to change your grip is how do you feel after a long writing session? First of all, are you able to write in a nice, flowing, natural way without your letters being all cramped? And after writing for a long time, does your hand experience a lot of fatigue? Do you get cramping in your hand? Because I definitely did, holding it like this, kind of in a death grip. This way I can write for much longer. I don't get any fatigue. It's much nicer to write this way. So don't think that, oh, it works for me, and so I'm just going to keep doing it the way I'm doing. Maybe that's the case, but look into some other methods, try some of these other methods, and see if perhaps they work a little better for you, maybe a little more ergonomic, and maybe result in less fatigue and a better ability to actually write clearly and precisely. So after a period of several months where I was trying to force myself to grip my pen correctly, I would always catch myself doing this over and over because it was just second nature. It was sort of ingrained in me. What I needed was a nun with a ruler to smack me on the hand whenever I held my pen wrong. But eventually I got that kind of drilled into my brain, and when I would pick up my pen, I would naturally hold it in the proper way, or in the way that I determined was proper for me to be able to write fluidly and easily and gracefully. Then I decided I wanted to pick a method of writing. In school, we were taught what I believe was the Danielian method of cursive, which I'm showing you right here, or pretty much a variation of this. I think this is what most kids were taught, at least when I was in school. I don't know what they're taught now, if they're even taught cursive now in American schools, and I'm talking about American schools, by the way. So this Danielian method is a pretty basic cursive method. The letters to me seem kind of just ungraceful, a little chunky, a little squatty. I wasn't a huge fan of this method of cursive. And so I wanted to look around and see if there were other scripts that maybe I could try to learn, maybe something that I was a little more attracted to, or I thought was a little more aesthetically pleasing. So I looked online. There are a lot of great resources online. One website I would like to point out to you is iampeth.com, and it's basically a very exhaustive handwriting resource. I will put a link to that in the description below, and I will try to remember, if I mention any resources at all, I will try to remember to link to those in the description box below so you can check those out. And I just started doing some research, and I stumbled upon Spencerian script, which was a method of handwriting developed in the early to mid 1800s, and it kind of developed as a business handwriting script. So it was something that was supposed to be easy to read for correspondence, for clerks and things like that to use. So it wasn't too ornate, but it looked a lot more classy to me than this method, this Danielian method of cursive. So I found some resources online. This is my very well-loved, well-worn little writing guide where I just have the capitals and the lowercase letters here. Maybe I'll get you a little closer view there. And this is something that I found on that iampeth website. This is from a guide written in the, I think, 1860s, maybe 1870s, not totally sure. And it was called the Ames Guide to Self-Instruction, to Artistic and Business Penmanship, something like that. And I will put a link to this as well in the description. And I printed out several pages from this. I didn't read the whole thing. It's interesting because it's, you know, written in the 19th century, so a lot of the verbiage, a lot of the ways that they tell you to practice are kind of odd. And a lot of it's using dip pens and things like that. But just to show you some of the things I printed out, there's some exercises that they recommend, and this is just sort of getting you to learn how to make the movements that you need to make the letters correctly. Oh, these are the more flourished capital letters. I didn't really get into that very much. Here are abbreviated capitals if you want to be a little more, I guess, clear in your writing or not quite as ornate. And then there's just several writing samples that they include, and I found it really helpful to just try to copy these writing samples. Things like this. So these are just some of the pages I printed out, things that I liked the look of. And as I decided that this is pretty much the method I wanted to use, and there's a lot of variation in the Spencerian method, but there were several prominent teachers back in the day. I kind of settled on Ames as my teacher. He's my guy. So this is kind of the way I decided I wanted to write. And obviously, if you learn a new method, you sort of learn by rote the proper way, and then you will probably adapt that to your own style. I'm sure that some changes will occur. There are certain capitals in this method that I don't really like very much, so I kind of change them myself. Just some more of these exercises here, and then basically the thing I used the most was this writing guide, and you can see the capitals there. I don't really like their F or T, the T there, so I changed those to kind of suit what I like. The lower cases, I really like the looks of these lowercase. It's just there's more of a pronounced slant in this method than the method I was taught for cursive. The letters are just a little more ornate, but I think just, I don't know, more pleasing to the eye. So I really enjoyed this method. I used the lowercase letters basically exactly the way they're printed here, or at least I try to. And then the capitals, pretty much the same, but as I mentioned, I changed the F and the T to suit me a little better. So my method of learning this script was basically, I printed out some of these guides. I'll show you here. I don't know if that's really showing up. I have one that's a little darker. This has a 52-degree slant line, which is what this script is supposed to be written at. And then it has this divided up margin, or these spacings that are divided up. So the lowercase letters are supposed to fill this middle line, and then the ascenders and descenders will fill either two of these top lines or one of these top lines or two or one. It's basically all these proportions are supposed to be correct to make the writing style look correct. And so using this guide, you can do exercises like this where you just start writing the letters. This is an early one. I was kind of not doing too great there. But you can see that using these guides, you can really get the proportions of the letters correct and also the slant of the letters, and that's really important. But you know, if you pick a different method, if you pick a different style of cursive, a style of script, that's fine. Just print out the resources that you want, find what you like, and then just practice. And basically that's what it is. It's making these letters, it's drawing these letters over and over and over, writing them over and over and over until you get comfortable, until it becomes second nature to write these letters. These guides I also found on the IAMPETH website. I will try to post a link to these resources. You can print these up. Obviously, if you're using a fountain pen, this is just copy paper, so it's not great for that. But if you just want to use a pencil or something just to get used to forming the letters in the proper way and the proportions of the letters. And then I just started doodling and writing. Here's kind of when I'm starting out, just doodling around. Let's see. This is some other stuff, some Japanese stuff. And here I'm just sort of playing around, you know, trying to make the letters. This is pretty early on, and there were the kind of the ingrained cursive that I learned would pop out every once in a while. And so I'm just sort of playing around and just doing a lot of doodling, a lot of writing, nonsense phrases over and over again, just forming those letters, trying to get the proportions right. And it's a process. It's something that's not going to happen overnight. Here's just trying to do some exercises with ovals and things like that. And then eventually I would just start writing out big blocks of text. So here's something, this is from a Patrick O'Brien book, the Aubrey Maturin series. And I would just write several pages of text. And maybe it's kind of tedious, but it's also kind of fun because again, this isn't perfect, but you're learning a whole new method of writing and you're trying to make it second nature. And so I was very disciplined with myself that anytime I wrote anything, I would try to use this script. And I often had this paper with me. So when I was writing something, if I got to a letter, I was like, oh yeah, how does that look in this script? I would have this right near me. I actually had printed out a little small version of this and cut it down to fit in my Midori Traveler's notebook. So when I was on the go, writing in my journal or something, I could still write using this method, using these letters, and I would always have it right in front of me if I needed it for reference. And so you just write. That's what you do, you just write. Here's a couple pages, you know, of just writing in that style. And you can see, again, this isn't perfect, but when you start getting it down, that slant, if all the letters are slanting in the exact same way and all the ascenders and the descenders are the proper proportions, it really starts looking attractive and you can really start seeing some results for the effort that you've been putting into it. And that's basically the most important advice I can give you if you really do want to improve your handwriting, is pick a method that you like, pick a script that you like, work on the mechanics. If your grip is wrong, it's going to be very difficult to write in this way. You have to have a nice, easy motion. You have to be able to move across the page without jerking it. If you're just resting your hand on the page, it's really hard to do this with grace. You have to keep lifting your hand over and over again. So that's the main thing you have to correct first, and that just takes practice. It takes just ingraining it into your brain and into your fingers. And then once you've picked a method, write in that method. Always write in that method. And don't cheat. If you're jotting a little note to yourself, don't just do it in the way that you've always done it. Force yourself to write in the method that you have chosen. And there's other resources too. If you're interested in Spencerian, there's this theory book that you can actually still get on Amazon. It's a reprint, obviously, of an original. This is actually by Spencer, who developed the Spencerian method. This guide was by Ames, who was, I don't know, a disciple or someone who had been taught by Spencer. I don't know, I haven't looked up all the history, but this is Spencerian. So there's some differences between this and what I learned. And I haven't really even gotten into this book yet, but it actually goes letter by letter and kind of teaches you some of the theory behind each letter, how to form the letters properly. And from what I've noticed so far in this, it's very close to this method, the one that I've been using. And then you can buy all these copybooks. where there's just exercises, and you copy these exercises. What is this? This is number 5, so this is the more advanced one, I guess. So here you go. You can just practice each letter over and over and over and over. And you know, I haven't been extremely disciplined with this. I'm not sitting in my room every day for 2 hours practicing this. This is basically just the kind of thing that whenever I write something, I try to write in this way. And it improves. It improves slowly, but you know, if you catch yourself doing it incorrectly and you just keep, you know, just having it in your mind that I'm going to write in this way and then whatever happens, happens. No, you have to look back over your work. You have to see, okay, right here, this P, I don't like this P very much. The ascender doesn't go up high enough. It's not quite right. If you look at the P here, you can see how this ascender goes up, comes down again. It's not quite right, the P that I wrote. And so I look back at that and I go, okay, I need to practice that P. And I might write a half a page of P's over and over and over. I want to make it second nature. I want to drill it into my brain. I want to drill it into my fingers. I just want it to be, I don't want to have to start searching for the letters. That's the other thing too, and that's why it helps to actually copy something down. So if you just have a book that you like, start writing what's in that book so you don't have to think of what you're writing, you just think of forming the letters. And you want to get to the point where you don't have to think, oh, how does the G go in this script? Or how does the capital H go in this script? And for a while, you'll have to look at your guide. You'll have to check your work to see, okay, what was that U? Oh yes, okay, the U is formed this way. But after a while, you won't have to anymore. And I'm to the point now where I know the way all the letters are supposed to look. I don't have to think about that. I don't always succeed. I still don't have the kind of muscle memory to properly produce them every single time, but it's getting closer and closer. And I think maybe a year or two, if I'm disciplined and if I keep to this, I think that my writing will be even much better than it is right here. This is still not up to my satisfaction. I'm still not happy with this. There's a lot of things about this that I do not like, but it's improving, and that's kind of the point. So there you have it. Those are the methods I've been using to try to improve my handwriting. Now, as I said, I'm no expert, and I still think my handwriting has a long way to go, but maybe just seeing the methods I've been using, some of the resources I've been using, will help you if you would also like to try to improve your own handwriting. And I'm going to link to all the resources I mentioned in the description box below, so make sure you check that out. But until next time, until we meet again, I've been your good friend Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things. Good day.